Denver's leaders spend a lot of time approving new units of housing, one by one by one. Now there's a proposal to streamline that process. Douglas County wants to lead the charge against the state law that limits how law enforcement can cooperate with immigration. A judge says the sexual assault allegations against a prominent Democrat at the Capitol are not credible. Now the woman who accused her faces a call to step down from party leadership. And a pioneering mobile preschool project faces an enormous setback. Their rolling classroom was stolen, recovered, tainted by fentanyl. They're planning to clean it up and get back to class tonight on Next. One of the fastest ways to add housing in a city that desperately needs it, like Denver, is to allow ADUs, accessory dwelling units, and to allow them all over the place. Neighbors don't always like them. Some cities have made them legal everywhere, all at once. Denver's gone neighborhood by neighborhood. Our Angeline McCall looks at a proposal to open up the floodgates.
A topic that Denver constituents always bring up to their council members came up here at Monday's council meeting.
From a policy standpoint, we've said yes to every ADU that has come through council but one.
Council member Chris Hines says many homeowners who want an accessory dwelling unit or ADU typically need to apply individually if their area isn't zoned for it already.
And frankly, the folks in Congress Park are unhappy that they don't already have access to ADUs neighborhood-wide.
Hines with council members Sarah Parody and Darrell Watson say, why not make it easier?
We've been going neighborhood by neighborhood for a while, and we've just come to that tipping point where we feel like it's in everyone's best interest to do it for the city as a whole.
They're proposing zoning changes that would allow ADUs in all residential use zones.
Neighbors have communicated consistently that they want this option. This is an option of flexibility for them and their families, for communities that they want to stay in.
The process would streamline it for homeowners and for council members.
People ask me, like, what's one of the things you least expected on Denver City Council? And my answer is usually, I never expected to spend so much time approving ADUs for people to put in their backyard.
There's still concerns over outreach, with council members demanding it be done right, especially with homeowners who have HOAs.
I'm very concerned that we're setting up a system where we might be, by not doing the aforementioned public outreach and education and doing that robustly, we could be getting a homeowner into a foreclosure process.
Still early on in the process, the three who proposed it say this is the time to brainstorm for an issue council members hear a lot of interest in.
This will create that flexibility across the city without as much expense up front.
Just for additional perspective, roughly 30 to 50% of rezoning applications to council in recent years have been for individual ADU rezonings. Kyle?
So we know some areas of the city have been pretty well rezoned for these ADUs, like North Denver's pretty well covered. But the thought is that if you opened this up citywide, it would also change the way that they're priced to, say, renters.
Right. And so when you think of the housing market, right, it's all about demand. And so if you increase the supply, hopefully that brings down the demand, meaning that things would be more affordable for people here and make, ADUs more accessible as well to people who really want them on their property, too.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting that they have approved every single one but one. I want to know what the story was with that one. All right, Angeline McCall, thank you. So Denver City Council is also talking right now on whether to spend $5 million to study planned improvements to Peña Boulevard. This is pre-construction work, environmental studies. It's a step ahead of actually rehauling the road to the airport. But already public transit advocates say they're being shut out of this process. The airport's looking at 5 options to cut down on congestion on Peña Boulevard between I-70 and 470. Things like adding more lanes, building smaller side roads for the surrounding communities. But critics, including some progressives on city council and fans of public transit, say there is not enough talk about public transit options to and from the airport. This current plan only identifies one public transit option, adding a bus-only lane. The folks who run the airport say, listen, people are not taking public transit to get to and from DIA. Their study found only 9% of the people traveling Peña to the airport use public transit to get there. Supporters of the expansion, like Councilwoman Stacey Gilmore, who represents that area, say that expanding Peña would benefit the vast majority of people who don't use public transit, whether that's first responders or people in surrounding neighborhoods who use the road for stuff other than going to and from the airport.
Peña means everything to our community for not only the airport and the jobs that it brings, but it also means that it's the way that we get to and from school every morning. It's where we go and use it for groceries.
The measure's still up for a debate and a final vote tonight. Douglas County is proudly declaring itself a non-sanctuary county these days, saying it doesn't want to help any of the migrants who have come to Denver. And now Douglas leaders want to take it a step further, challenging the state laws that limit law enforcement cooperation with federal immigration agents.
We are directing the county attorney to proceed forth and to challenge the constitutionality of this ill-conceived law.
Republican commissioners are preparing that legal challenge to the state law that prohibits local law enforcement from detaining somebody based solely on their immigration status or sharing that personal information with immigration officers. The Douglas County Sheriff's Office supports this legal challenge. They testified for a failed Republican effort to rewrite that law at the legislature this year.
You should not be dictating to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office or any other sheriff's office or the police department on matters of our organization trying to keep our community safe. In this case specifically, it's working with and cooperating with ICE.
And Douglas County commissioners had one more idea to prevent migrants from coming to their county. They've advanced an ordinance banning commercial vehicles like buses from dropping off people in the county unannounced. Under that ordinance, the county could cite the drivers or seize the buses. The head of the Colorado Democratic Party is calling for the resignation of one of his vice presidents after a judge found that her allegations of sexual assault against a state legislator not credible. There's a lot to unpack there. Here's the short version of what's gone on. For a year now, Democratic Party spokeswoman Sheena Caddy has been making public accusations against Democratic State Rep Leslie Herod on social media, saying that she was the victim of an unwanted advance from Herod. Now, Caddy's also sought a permanent restraining order against Representative Herod. According to court paperwork provided by Herod for our review, a judge recently determined that Caddy's claims were not credible in the least. The court granted Representative Herod a restraining order against her accuser, including restrictions on what she can now say publicly about the representative. Caddy told us today that she couldn't comment for that reason. Democratic Party Chairman Chad Mirab says that Caddy should resign her VP post with the party because that judge did not find her public accusations against Herod to be at all credible. It's the absolute worst when you're doing your household budget planning and you come up $100 million short. Happens. It's happening to Colorado legislators right now. State economists' forecasts mean that state legislators who are drafting the budget for the 2024-2025 fiscal year need to cut anywhere between $150 million to $267 million in spending. That work's supposed to be submitted to the full legislature next week. Economists say the change in forecasts is largely because of a slowdown in population growth and increased collection of fees like retail delivery charges. Both those changes mean larger taxpayer refunds next year. Economists predict about $2 billion in TABOR refunds, therefore less money to spend. Meanwhile, state legislators are also trying to reform the state's property tax system. A lot of attention on that because of skyrocketing property tax assessments last year. Bipartisan group of lawmakers, local government leaders, and advocacy groups came together to tackle that problem, and they finalized a list of recommendations to send to the folks in charge at the Capitol. They include lowering tax rates for commercial property owners and smoothing out some of the big swings in property tax assessments by changing the assessment formula. They also suggested capping property tax rates, an idea that has faced skepticism from Democrats who don't want to give up the revenue and Republicans who worry about the impact to rural areas. Some of their ideas wouldn't lower taxes, could make it easier to pay your taxes, like allowing homeowners to break up tax payments into monthly installments or expanding the senior homestead exemption. None of those recommendations has to be picked up by the state legislature, but they're likely to be turned into bills in the future. You have raised $54,000 for Colorado's volunteer search and rescue teams through your latest Word of Thanks micro-giving campaign. Those teams operate in every one of Colorado's counties. That money is going to be spread out to meet their needs. A few of you have been asking recently how much more in donations comes in from the monthly donors to the Word of Thanks Fund. Last month, that was an extra $15,000 that you raised for each weekly campaign. That's pretty astonishing. And just this afternoon, somebody signed up for a new monthly gift in memory of Elijah McClain. Your monthly gifts have meant 15 grand for each nonprofit on top of what weekly donors give. Almost 2,000 of you have signed up to simplify your giving through those monthly donations. In fact, we are just 10 people away from hitting that 2,000 milestone. If you have questions about our micro-giving campaigns or want to suggest one for me to feature, email me, Kyle@9news.com.
We have a good idea, but it's never 100% guarantee until you're actually through it.
All that snow last week means good things for the state's snowpack, at least for now, because a lot can happen before the snowpack turns into our water supply. And legislators say if local governments want to do some landscaping, they're going to need to get creative. New law encourages them to cut out the grass. Next. Colorado's latest attempt at going green means less green in the form of lawns. New state law will limit where local governments can lay down turf. It was one of the first water conservation policies we've seen come out of the Capitol this year. Governors now signed off on that bill, prohibiting local governments from planting new, non-functional grass or non-native plants in right-of-ways, parking lots, medians. Even the bill's sponsors say it's hard to tell what the impact of this is going to be because some of the biggest water users, recreational spaces like golf courses and parks, are exempt from the turf rules. They won't go into effect until 2026. Last week's snow gave a big boost to snowpack across parts of the state. And Colorado still has a couple more weeks to add that snowpack through early April. That can mean good news for the runoff into the Colorado River later this spring and summer, though scientists warn there are a couple things that could go wrong between now and then. According to state and federal tracking, Colorado's snowpack is nearly 110% of normal, thanks to that boost we got last week, and it's likely we'll sneak in a little bit more wet weather before next month. Peak snowpack, which typically hits in early to mid-April, is a good indicator of what runoff we'll see in the spring. But Colorado's assistant state climatologist says our recent trend of above average temperature could put a dent in things.
Once you start warming up and getting that nice spring warming, that can really make your snowpack melt fast. And when it melts really fast, it's not as efficient as becoming available water supply. And those who rely on it as runoff for irrigation have to kind of change their irrigation schedules to when the water is going to be available.
The biggest risk for that is in southern Colorado, the San Juans and San Luis Valley. They also have less time to accumulate snowpack than other spots because their basin snowpack tends to peak at the beginning of April, a few weeks ahead of the rest of the state. Well, that's the weather that was. For the weather that will be, here's Kathy Sabin.
Thanks, Kyle. You can almost hear people exhaling today after last week's weather, and we have sunshine. 50s today, 60s tomorrow. Everything is melting away. A beautiful afternoon. And what about the powder for weekend skiers and snow riders? And decent travel weather getting up there. You'll find that again tomorrow as well. Our temperature today, 59, just shy of 60 degrees. We could go 5 to 10 degrees warmer tomorrow over the numbers that we're seeing this afternoon. So a mild, dry end to winter. The vernal equinox is tomorrow night at 9:06. So this could be the last day of winter or tomorrow, the last full day. And we have a quiet week of weather with the next storm on the way for the weekend. This is last week's storm. It dropped south, cut off from the main jet stream flow, so the counterclockwise flow still pushing moisture into Colorado. Even with this dominant ridge, we're still seeing the effects of that area of low pressure, which will finally be on the move in about the next 48 hours. So the southern mountains and right along the Colorado-New Mexico line, we could still see a few light showers over the next day or two, but Denver and points northward will stay dry right into the upcoming weekend. A few high clouds passing through tonight and tomorrow, but southwest winds will give us a quick warm up. We'll bottom out in the low 30s and then watch those numbers soar tomorrow. And even this evening, mild and comfortable conditions, a quiet evening. So we have spring arriving tomorrow at 9:06 p.m. with a high of 63. First full day of spring will be comfortable. Temperatures above average into the weekend. Next storm brings rain showers on Sunday, maybe possibly cold enough for that rain to mix with snow a week from today, with colder highs in the mid-30s to kick off next week. But between now and then, just a nice period of weather to dig out and just kind of recover from the crazy weather from last week. Beautiful conditions along the Front Range tonight with a few high clouds coming in, and your sunrise and sunset are both right around 7 o'clock, 7 in the morning and 7 at night.
Because I'm like, wait, that's our school. There's a label. It's part of the community.
A stolen vehicle, unlike any other in Colorado. It served as a preschool for neighborhoods in need. UBU Early Learning bridges a gap in education with an innovative idea: mobile classrooms inside RVs that are taken directly to neighborhoods in need. City of Aurora raves about their work. Our Word of Thanks microgiving campaign raised funds to help them add another one of those rolling classrooms. Then last week, one of those preschools on wheels was one of the tens of thousands of vehicles stolen in Colorado each year.
Safari and Carter are new, so we have to show them how we do things, okay? UBU is a nonprofit mobile preschool. We have a general community that we'd like to serve, and that's the BIPOC community. I'm Sharon Logan. I work with UBU Early Learning. I'm the lead teacher. We are at our second mobile preschool home, Peoria Crossing. Our RV was stolen last Monday. Maintenance noticed the broken window and notified the manager, and they contacted us. Contacted APD. They came over Tuesday, got the police report. We were able to see the video footage from the complex, and it shows, a vehicle pulling up, someone getting out, then breaking into the RV and taking it. I cried a lot because I'm like, wait, that's our school. There's a label. It's part of the community, and why? Why and how did this happen? They did recover the RV, and unfortunately, it has been tested positive for fentanyl. They have to disinfect, recondition, everything. So we're looking at mid-May, hopefully, to even get the vehicle cleared to be able to go away for repairs. It's crucial because we pride ourselves in the mobile aspect, and we had a couple of new students who were just getting really comfortable with that. Next is just working with the Housing Authority in the shared space that they allow us to have to really continue to run the program right now. It's not the community that did this, but how do we make the community aware, or how do we prevent this from happening again?
That stolen RV was one of UBU's 3 mobile classrooms. Other 2 are still in commission. Nonprofit says investigators haven't determined who stole that third one, which, as they mentioned, is being deep cleaned before it returns to service. Marissa has your feedback. Gracias. I will take a look and have the best, and maybe even the worst, for you next. The brief life cycle of a Colorado snowman. It's the most Colorado thing we saw today. David in Littleton crafted a masterpiece after last week's snowstorm. A few days of warm temperatures and a south-facing house later, well, that doesn't look like a snowman anymore, and at some point you might want to knock that down, friends. All right, feedback from Jim Nelson tonight, who says, thanks for sharing the impact of our Word of Thanks donations. Word of Thanks continues to be amazing, Jim says, and Colorado is a better place for it. I agree with you, Jim. It's absolutely amazing what you all have built and sustained through your weekly donations. A true force for good, tens of thousands of dollars for a nonprofit in Colorado every week. Kevin says, just wondering how much you've donated so far. I could not tell you that offhand, Kevin. It's the same deal every week. I'll never ask you to give something I don't give to myself, so match the first 50 donations of $5 or $2.50. So do that every week. We've been at it for 195 weeks. Maybe you're better at math than I am. I'll see you next time.